Welcome back to Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Smash that thumbs up on this video. Hit that subscribe button below. Hit those comments as well. We'll read your comments from yesterday's show with Matthew Cerrone. Thank you so much. Friday coming off our record-breaking Bo Bichette episode. Over 12,000 views. We appreciate it. Keep on sharing with any Mets fan you know if you're enjoying it. If you want to rip me, we'll read those too. But let's keep it respectful. That's what we like to do here. But we keep it real, we keep it raw, we keep it honest, and a tremendous conversation with Matthew Cerrone, the creator of Mets Blog. So check that out yesterday. Let's get right to it today on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Harrison Bader is a name I have not talked a bunch about. He is still out there on the free agent market, likely because he's probably demanding more than he's going to get or what he's worth. Listen, Harrison Bader's a good player. He's a good, solid player. He's a good outfielder for a team that maybe will make the playoffs, but I just don't find that Harrison Bader moves the needle enough. This was a guy that basically lost his job in his first stint with the Mets to Tyrone Taylor, was not playing because he just does not hit enough. Now, he did a lot in Philadelphia after he got traded from Minnesota. In 50 games, he hit 305 with a 361 on base, 5 homers, 16 RBIs. It feels like Bader's 277 average, 347 OBP, 17 homers, 54 RBIs. Seems like half those came against the Mets. I mean, the guy hit 600 against the Mets in the 2025 season. So maybe playing against the Mets skewed his numbers a little bit, but it just feels weird that they would have a reunion. I feel like it worked because he had Pete there and his boy from Florida and the Bash brothers, whatever. But I don't know if, he's a fit in terms of a hitter / in the clubhouse. I just don't know if he makes a ton of sense for the Mets at this point. Listen, if you can get him on a 1-year, $8 million deal, sure. But I'd like to aim higher. I'm thinking about, Luis Robert. I think that's a little bit too much in terms of $20 million. He's a name we've talked about a lot. A lot of people don't like him. I'm thinking about Jarren Duran. I'm thinking about a Steven Kwan. Can you make a deal for Steven Kwan? But I'm aiming a little bit higher than Harrison Bader. The Mets have a big hole in the outfield. One of those spots, a lot of people are like, they have 2 holes in the outfield. Listen, one of those spots is going to be Tyrone Taylor, Carson Bench. At some point, if it's not opening day, it's going to be Carson Bench. He's going to get a shot. If it doesn't work, they'll go from there. But the reality is one of those positions is taken. But there is one gaping hole in the outfield. And to me, if you're filling that hole with Harrison Bader, it doesn't excite me. I know a lot of people have commented, what about Bader? What about Bader? But does that really excite you offensively? He would basically hit ninth. You know what Harrison Bader is. He's a career 247 hitter. He's a career on-base guy at 313. In a full 162 games, which he has never played. Last year was the closest he got. His longest season was 146, which was last year in 2025. It's nice to see that in a year where he played more games than ever, he put up his best numbers. But did he do enough with 17 and 54 for you to warrant him playing every day? Now, his defense is great, and I agree. You put him out in center field, your defense is automatically a whole lot better. Up the middle, you're talking Lindor, Simeon, and Bader. Bader did win a Gold Glove a couple of years ago. So defensively, it would be great. I just would not get that excited when you talk about adding another bat to this lineup. If it's not going to be Cody Bellinger, I'll pass on Harrison Bader. I'm also going to pass on Lars Nootbaar, another name that has come up again here from the Cardinals in a trade. I don't think it would cost a ton in a trade for the Mets. Nootbaar is a guy that does strike out a decent amount, but he also does walk a lot. His career OBP is almost 100 points higher than his average, so he'll get on base at about a third of the clip. But similar to Bader, not exciting in the home run RBI department, 13 and 48 last year. Still in his prime. Lars Nootbaar, 27 years old. But, again, is that a guy that you're comfortable starting every day? He's just turned 28. So 28 years old, financially is going to cost you really nothing. Prospects, I can't imagine it costs more than like maybe Reimer, Watson, maybe even less. But do you really think Lars Nootbaar is the bat the Mets need? I'm not a fan. I'm just not. He hits lefty. He's played all 3 outfield positions. So in terms of flexibility in the outfield, he's got that. 236 games in right, 181 in left, 121 at center. So he has the ability to play all 3 positions, which I'm sure the Mets love. Jake Myers is another guy from the Houston Astros, been talked about, with the Mets target him. Those 3 names to me just, the Bichette signing was great. If you follow that signing by getting one of those 3, to me, it doesn't excite the fan base, and it doesn't help this lineup enough. I think the Mets need that one more bat. Honestly, Luis Robert would excite me more because Luis Robert's ceiling is really good. Now, the floor is bad, I get it. But a change of scenery, it's not Luis Robert has no tools. He does have the $20 million attached to him for this season, though. That's the key with Luis Robert. Do the Mets want to take a shot at him? He might fail. Yeah, it's a one-year commitment, but you're paying $20 million and then you're buying him out for $2. Is it worth it? You know, the White Sox, I'm sure, are asking for the world, and that's the reason his trade hasn't got done yet. But if you said to me, Jake, would you rather Harrison Bader in free agency, Lars Nootbaar in free agency, or trade for Luis Robert? Let's rule out all the other names. Of those three, I'm choosing Luis Robert. I just think you've seen his ceiling. His ceiling is an all-star player. Bader and Nootbaar have never been an all-star. Bader's ceiling is a Gold Glover and a very average to below average hitter. So that's the three I'm choosing out of that. Now, if you said, Jake, would you rather trade for Luis Robert or Brandon Donovan? I'm choosing Brandon Donovan. That's a guy that plays all over the diamond, infield and outfield, fits the Mets mantra in terms of, run prevention. If anyone gets hurt, you can put Brendan Donovan in every position. But Brendan Donovan is one of the most coveted players on the trade market right now. So, I don't think Brendan Donovan's a guy you're going to trade Sproat and Acuna and another prospect to go get when you need, starting pitching still. Speaking of starting pitching, the Mets still have interest in Framber Valdez, according to Will Salmon. And, that is intriguing because remember, and I probably didn't mention it enough, or I don't remember if I mentioned it, but when the Mets signed Bo Bichette, they lost $1 million in international pool money. They also lost their second and fifth round picks due to Bichette qualifying offer, draft compensation. So the Mets had to give up their second and fifth round picks. If they signed Framber Valdez, who also got a qualifying offer and declined from the Houston Astros, the Mets would have to give out their third and sixth round. So that would mean the Mets would lose their second, their third, their fifth, and their sixth. That's a lot of draft picks. Now, again, the baseball MLB draft is much different than like the NBA and NFL. There's much more picks in the MLB draft. It's not the end of the world if you lose those picks to make your team better. The Mets already have one of the best farm system in baseball, so it wouldn't kill the Mets, but that shows that their interest is serious if they're cool with losing 2 more picks. And, I think it all depends what happens on the outfield. What I've said all along, if the Mets trade for an outfielder, that's not Luis Robert, any of these other guys that financially don't cost a ton, whether it's Kwan, whether it's Duran, whether it's Nootbaar, whether, it's even a Bader in free agency, Framber seems more likely to me because they will have that money that they would have gave, say, a Bellinger or, a Robert, whatever it may be, to throw at Framber. Now, again, with Framber, they want high AAV but a short-term deal with opt-outs. He's in his 30s now. Is Framber Valdez going to take a potential opt-out deal and enter the market again? That's the question with Framber. He just turned 32, so he's not exactly 28. Is he cool to opting out and going back in a free agency at 33? Remember, starting pitching 33 is not that old. But to me, if the Mets make a trade for a cheaper outfielder financially, Framber would be their go-to guy. Zach Gallen, same thing. 2 picks attached to it. So could it be Gallen? Could it be Framber? I think Framber would excite more people. I think Gallen would be good too. Listen, both these guys have what the Mets are missing, and that's eating innings and a track record, longevity of success. Framber a little bit more playoff experience, has a World Series championship. Zach Gallen doesn't. So do you want, the title ring? A lot of people, didn't love the catcher cross-up. He said it was accidental. That was the only incident really he's had in his career. I wouldn't look too much into it. But Zach Gallen, Framber Valdez, who do you want? Let us know in the comments below. All right, let's close out the show reading some of your comments from Monday's show on Martin Luther King Day. Shout out to MLK. From Matthew Cerrone episode. Shakamoto Mets Daily Insider member says, great show. Love the convo about the team. Love the convo about the media, journalism, and content creation. Great questions from Matt. The video provides a nice little piece of history where New York media history, internet history overlap. What a fascinating time the early 2010s were. Yeah, it really was. And, Mets blog, if you're a Met fan my age or older or a couple of years younger, you were on Mets blog all the time. Like, that was your go-to site. And the SNY Mets site now is not. Like, the SNY Mets site now is just news aggregation. Where Matt was breaking news. Matt was, the OG in this business. And, he's that guy. And he's someone I look up to, someone I consider like a mentor in this business. So the fact that he watches my show all the time, that he supports me, that he texts me reaching out, with words of wisdom and support means a lot to me. So I appreciate him coming on. I appreciate his support, and I appreciate what he did for this industry. Because blogs now I feel like are almost laughed at, but he was the blog. Like Mets blog was the blog over any other site, for any team. That was the site. And he said on a good day, there were days he got millions of views. We're excited about 12,000 views on a show here. That would be a laughing stock for him on a good day, like 12,000. He was getting millions. And he built a nice career himself in 16 years. You can't blame him for taking a few years off from the team. With the pandemic, with finally time with his family where he didn't have to leave to write a story about, a minor league signing. Good for him taking a few years off, and I'm glad he's back. I value his insight and his fandom. The C Money says, great interview. Cerrone is a legend. He sure is. Edward Wohl says, anyone who thinks the Wilpon era was better, all I can say is you can't fix stupid. Yeah, listen, I've seen those tweets. I think those people realize they're dumb ones. From T-Bird, what up, T-Bird? Great show. Keep it up. Thanks, T-Bird. Jaden Rossi says, loving your content, man. Thank you, Jaden. Appreciate your support. Again, guys, appreciate all your support. We're going to hopefully have a Mets Daily Day at Citi Field. At some point when we get closer to the season, we'll talk about it. But my hope is to have a day where all of us could go to a game, watch together, chat in center field, and should be fun. Hopefully we get a good weather, kind of summer day, and we'll make it happen. JM Valentine says, Mets blog was the only place to get real updates. I miss it so much. Can't stand going to it now, just not the same. Yeah, listen, it doesn't exist now. Like the SNY Mets site is not Mets blog. It's a news aggregation site. And there may not be a site like Mets blog again. Like that was the place in the comments. It was a true community. He built the community element before that even existed in the internet world. And I appreciate that from him. Tim Keene says, no, Bellinger's not as good as Bichette, so not the same contract. I don't know if he's as good as Bichette, Tim, but he does provide the Mets positional flexibility and a bopper. And there's none of them really out there in free agency right now. Like the next guy up are you going to be happy signing Austin Hayes? And again, it's not our money. So if Steve Cohen's fine blowing through the luxury tax, I don't see why they would not, go for Bellinger. But again, money's big here. If you get Cody Bellinger and trade for Freddie Peralta, this instantly becomes a remarkable offseason for the Mets. Just Joe 7979. Damn, where's Ted Berg? I actually texted Matt about that, and he's living, I guess, somewhere in New York with his family. So that's all I got. I don't know what Ted Berg, his career is doing, but Ted Berg is alive and well with his family. From Arcade Perfect Reviews, another great interview. Keep these up. Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to try and keep it going with a weekly interview and try to incorporate new guests. Like I said, I got to reach back out to Hank Azaria's publicist and get him. He's interested. He said he would like to come on the show, so I got to figure out a date for Hank. But yeah, we want to keep new guests and some of our recurring guests in the fold. But love the guest segments. Matt was a unique one, so I want to get some more of those. Peace and Grease says, good seeing you back, Matt. Thomas Smith said, truth be told, the pitching sucked every year you just spoke up about. Listen, we all know baseball, right? It's a 26-man roster. If you're going to go through every year Pete was on the Mets and just point to pitching being the problem, you didn't watch the games. We know pitching is always a problem. Pitching wins ball games, the telltale old phrase. But in reality, this is a team sport. It came down many games to situational hitting. 0-70 with trailing after 8 innings is an unheard of stat. It's never happened in the history of Major League Baseball, which is around for over 100 years. So I get it, the pitching wasn't good, but also the team did not have any clutch gene in them like the 2024 Mets did. So it comes down every year to more than just, the pitching stunk this year, the pitching stunk this year, the pitching stunk this year. Do the hitters not get any blame because you like them? No. That's not how baseball works. It's a team sport. And the Mets were not a real team in 2025 because we're pick-pointing individual players. And that's not how baseball works and how it should work. Good teams have other pieces and elements that pick up those guys. Sal Capello says, wow, that's where I started Mets blog in 2014, 2015. Yeah, listen, your fandom grew through Mets blog. And that's where you got to respect what Matt did is, you were a fan, you watched the games, but you were more ingrained in the team because of Mets blog, scoops and rumors. And now we see all these YouTube channels like mine with scoops and rumors, and some of them suck. Some of them some people watching me probably say, he sucks, the clickbait headlines, which I don't create, another one of these clickbait channels. I just tell it how it is. The people who like this show understand that I'm a fan, just like you. I've had the ability to talk to all my heroes. I've hosted shows for, a decade, and I'm good at this. This is what I do well. So if you don't like me, that's fine. But in the end, this is a fan channel for the fans, by the fans. Buddha Proof says, gave up picks and international signing bonus money. Yes. $1 million international signing bonus, second and fifth pick for Bo Bichette, and it would be a third and a sixth for Framber Valdez. So we'll see. All right, everybody, thank you so much for the comments. Keep on subscribing. Keep on smashing that thumbs up. We have passed the 3,500 subscriber plateau. We are at 36 right now. Keep on subscribing. Keep on sharing. Keep on smashing that thumbs up. And follow your boy at Jake Brown Live. Go subscribe to my YouTube. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Mets Daily.